All right. Good afternoon. Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on where you are. Thank you very much for joining the session. I can see there's already a number of people who are joining us. Um, this is the first of our information sessions for this upcoming application cycle. So again, thank you very much for joining. I will talk for about 10-15 minutes about our program. I'll lead you through the presentation that I've got. But I know most of the time people's main reason for joining these sessions is to ask questions. I'll also go through a list of frequently asked questions towards the end of my presentation. And then afterwards, once I've presented the program, then feel free to ask me questions either using the chat function, or you're very free to ask even using your voice, or if turn your camera on and feel free to ask. So thank you again. And when it comes to the PCLL, obviously, the one assumption that I'm making here is that you know what the PCLL program is. But for those who don't, the PCLL program is the 1 year full-time program that all aspiring lawyers have to take in Hong Kong before they can start practicing as either trainees or pupil barristers. So you normally would finish your undergraduate studies or your JD degree and then enroll in the PCL program. It's, as I said, 1 year. Why choose PCLL at CityU? There are two other law schools in Hong Kong, so it's a very reasonable question. Our program for many years has been known as one of the most practical programs, and I have had a lot of people in the profession tell me the same thing, that they appreciate how we train our students. The emphasis on really solving problems rather than learning rules only, because that part of the education occurs in the LLB JD programs. Our focus is really to enable you to assist clients in solving the problem. So we have a number of very experienced colleagues. I myself am a practicing barrister. I practice mostly in the civil area. A number of my colleagues also still practice, and there are some who have taken a break from practicing and are teaching full time. But even those individuals, they have many years of experience. We also have a very large team of part-time teachers who are, almost all of them are practicing lawyers, and they help us with the small group classes whenever we need additional people. And this then allows our students to get to know a lot of people in the industry. So I've had students in the PCL who, through the PCL program, have gone to know some of the tutors and have eventually worked at those people's firms. So it's a good chance to meet people. So as I was saying earlier, what are the skills that we focus on? So obviously for me, one of the most important skills is communication, to be able to advise clients and to solve their problems. So that's what we focus on quite a lot in the classes. Obviously, there are certain courses that you have to do as part of the PCLL, and those have been set by the profession, the Law Society and the Bar Association, and we'll look at those courses briefly in a minute. But in all those courses, the sort of pervasive issues that you will see are helping clients and how to sort of solve those issues that people come to you with. So how do you do that? You do that through learning how to draft properly, right? So for example, in the civil litigation course, one of the things you have to do is learn how to draft pleadings. These are legal documents that you would use to start an action, or things like a witness statement. We put a lot of focus on teaching those skills, and I'm happy to say that we actually are the first law school in all of Asia Pacific to even leverage technology in this area. Some of you may know the company Thomson Reuters. We this year have started working with them to use an AI tool, which is very useful for research and drafting. It's called Co-Counsel 2.0. We are using that and incorporating it into our drafting and some of the other classes. We'll be doing that mostly in the second semester because that's when we teach the electives. But hopefully, we'll be teaching you the skills not only with traditional sort of drafting skills, but also to use the technology that is coming and it's advancing at quite a rapid pace. So as I was saying earlier, the course itself is a one-year course. It's composed mostly of large group lecture type classes, although each lecturer has their own style, and then there are different ways of teaching these courses too. But if you want to think of these large groups, they're more like your lectures that you have at university or have had in your studies. And then we also, for each of these courses, have small group classes. So this is where you have students of anywhere from, some classes are as small as even 6 for some of the drafting classes, all the way up to around 10 or 11 students. But that's usually the upper limit when it comes to the number of students in the class. I would say the average number is about 10 students, depending on the cohort size. And this is where you go through exercises as in tutorial type classes, where you'd have a few problems that you might have learned the previous week, and then you work through them. And this is your opportunity to work with the lecturers and the tutors and ask individual questions. Now, the courses themselves, there are a number of core courses, mandatory courses that you have to study whilst doing the PCLL. And these are listed here. Conveyancing, that's one of the areas that you have to study. And these, again, are mandated by the professional body. So corporate and commercial practice, professional conduct, this is more about ethics, wills and probate, which is quite self-explanatory, more to do with what happens when a person passes away, planning their estate. Civil litigation, criminal litigation, these are, the traditional litigation courses. How do you start an action in a civil case? What happens when a person gets arrested in a criminal case, and that sort of progress of the case. Interlocutory advocacy and interviewing is a fairly unique course that we offer. It looks at some of the applications that one can make in the interlocutory stages. So this is where the matter hasn't reached trial yet. From start to the trial, there can be a number of stages in between. So the focus of this course traditionally has been summary judgment. So that's an application we focus on. There are 2 other core courses, mediation and negotiation and trial advocacy. We teach these as intensive courses. So mediation and negotiation is a 1-week intensive course where in that particular week you do nothing but this course. So the good thing is you get it out of the way and it sort of frees up the timetable a little bit. Trial advocacy is taught in the second semester, and this year we will be teaching it in the first 2 weeks of the semester. Of course, I mean, the sort of scheduling can also change depending on the needs of the program, but at the moment, this is the manner in which we teach them. Then there are elective courses. These are courses that are taught in the second semester. Each student has to choose 3 courses. Now, when it comes to the bar course, it is one which you have to take if you want to enter the bar and become a barrister. So the others, there is a lot more leeway. So we have a good mix of courses which deal with litigation. We also have some commercial or courses which may be of interest to people who want to go into corporate and commercial. And we, for the last 2 years, have also been doing this course called Law and Technology, which looks at the impact of technology on law and all the technologies that are actually coming along and advances in particularly AI and how they're impacting law firms and how they adopt these practices. We also have courses such as Chinese for legal practice for people who want drafting knowledge and practice in Chinese. And so again, the limitation here is you have to know Chinese in order to do this course. But other than the bar course and Chinese for legal practice, I think the other courses are effectively open to anybody who wants to do them. Admissions, I'm not going to bore you in terms of like all the details. What I would say is please do look at our website. It contains quite a bit of information about the process itself. In effect, I mean, to put it simply, you would satisfy the conditions if you hold a LLB or a JD degree, either from Hong Kong or overseas. If you're overseas, the obligation then would be to also ensure that you have done some of the conversion exams. And for that, I would encourage you to, as soon as it's practical for you, I would suggest early on in your LLB or JD studies to look into the matter of whether you need to take any conversion exams, how many of them you need to take, and try to take them early, because oftentimes people find that they leave them too late, and it can become quite stressful for them to do that. In terms of criteria, really the criteria has always been mainly, I would say, merit. Your achievement in your undergraduate or first degree is, if it's law, is one of the main sort of things that we look at. In theory, you may be required to attend an interview, although for most applicants that is not the reality. We don't interview very often. Only in cases where we feel there's a need to interview do we do that. And again, this is just some detail in terms of the English proficiency requirements and also the core subjects that you have to take. So for anybody who's done a law degree in Hong Kong, it usually doesn't present much of a difficulty. It's more for people who are coming from overseas. When it comes to IELTS, though, all the candidates have to do it. Again, it's one of the requirements by the Standing Committee on Legal Education and Training in Hong Kong. So for overseas law graduates, and we will send this presentation to you later, so don't worry about the information that's on the slides. I would focus on the last part of this slide, on obtaining the evaluation exemption letter. So you have to, as I said earlier, get in touch with the Hong Kong Conversion Examination Board to determine whether your law degree gives you certain exemptions from these conversion courses and how many of these exemptions do you have, and then to also obtain the result of that notice. And if there are any courses that you need to take and conversion exams, I mean, that you need to take, then you also would need to submit the results of those to us once they become available. Apart from, students or taking students who purely on merit, we also have 20 or so places every year for what we call special track applicants. So these applicants, they may not have perhaps the required academic results, that are normally needed to enter the PCLL, but they may have work experience that is valuable in terms of their application itself. So here you'd need at least 2 years of what we call solid law-related work experience. So as to be full-time work that you do. It does not include internships or mini pupilages, as it says. And I'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute. But effectively, we want to recognize candidates who have been working in the field because we find that sometimes, their experience itself is quite useful and they contribute quite a lot to the classes. These individuals, on average, I mean, again, there's no particular rule, but on average, there's somebody who's been working for a few years and tend to be slightly older than the other applicants. So they bring a level of maturity and experience in the class, which personally I've always found quite useful when it comes to class discussions and their knowledge of the law. Now, you don't have to, on your application, state that you're a special track applicant. If your grades and your academic results are sufficient to enable you to be accepted in just the regular manner, then there's no need to consider that person for a special track. But if perhaps the results may or would not normally allow you to enter the program, then we do consider whether you fall within the special track. So in the application, do make it quite clear if you've been working full-time, where you've been working and for what period of time you've been working, so we can at least make that determination. Now, quickly moving on to some of the more common questions, and then I'll look at some specific ones too. Some of the questions we get sometimes are, do you have any scholarships? Yes, there are a number of scholarships that are available. There's information about those on our website. When it comes to UGC places, yes, again, we do have a number of UGC places, although we make the determination sometime around late August, early September. So you will not find out whether you've been granted a UGC place until then. You would normally have to put us as the first choice for us to consider you in the early stages of the application. Again, I'll talk about this a little in a few minutes because there is a specific question in the FAQs which deals with this. And when it comes to deferrals, we do not have deferrals. If you are accepted and you choose not to attend, or you for some reason cannot attend, then unfortunately you'd have to make a fresh application the following year. When it comes to offers, we accept applications on a rolling basis. So our applications have already started and they will go until April. So I would encourage you to apply as soon as you can with all the information in the application form, because we start looking at applications shortly after the new year starts, and we send out our first offers again, usually around February or March. So that's good for most applicants because the earlier they get the offer, then it puts their mind at ease and they can concentrate more on finishing school and dealing with whatever final year obligations they have when it comes to their studies. So before I open the floor to you guys, I thought I'd just go through some of the common FAQs that we have on our website and just comment on them quickly. One thing that I would sort of emphasize is to take the IELTS early, right? So as far as I know, I think the IELTS exam is administered very frequently. So I would encourage you to do it early because there is a particular date by which you have to submit the results. And that then also limits when you need to do it. As far as I recall, I think it's somewhere around the start of August, right? So you really should not leave it too late, because in the past there have been students who had been given offers, but they left it too late to take the IELTS exam, and on the first attempt, they did not achieve the result that is required. A minimum of 7 is required. They did not achieve that result, and because by then they had already passed the deadline to submit the results, unfortunately they could not enroll and had to apply again for the next year. So that would be really probably one of the worst ways to sort of miss getting into the program because of a formality like this. So especially since, as I said, IELTS is administered so frequently. Now, there's one question that's usually asked, can we take this one skill retake? And the answer is no, you have to take the academic IELTS test academic, and it has to be in one sitting. So one question we normally get is, do I need to finish up all the conditions or fulfill all the conditions before I can apply? No. When you apply, and if, for example, we gave you the conditional offer, that's based on the conditions that you need to meet. So if there are still some conditions that need to be met, we will state them in the offer letter. And as long as you can meet those conditions by a stipulated date before the start of the program, then that should be sufficient. This question is normally about, the titles of the courses. Again, the easiest thing for you to do would be to contact the Hong Kong Conversion Examination Board and to ask them whether you can obtain any exemptions or whether you need to take any sort of conversion exams, and whether that course is recognized or not. Do you have to attend an interview? As I said earlier, you don't necessarily need to. A majority of students do not need to. But if we are considering you on the special track, then you would need to attend an interview. For UGC places, again, you don't have to apply for it. We will go through that process, as I mentioned earlier, at the end of August, start of September. And once we have determined who will get a UGC place, then we will inform you afterwards. Are CityU students given a preference? Not given any preferences, but I mean, being a CityU student obviously doesn't hurt you either. So we will look at all the applicants in an objective manner. If you wish to apply for more than one PCLL program, then obviously you'd need to submit documents to these separate providers. But the important thing to remember is that you can only put one provider as your first choice. So if you put more than one provider as your first choice, your applications will be disqualified. Deferral, yeah, as I said earlier, there's no possibility of deferral, but you can apply for admission for the following year. In terms of improving your chances, as it says there, we do look at your application in its entirety, but merit, academic results, these form a large part of our decision-making process. So if your undergraduate academic record is not competitive, if you do an LLM, yes, that will help if you do well on the LLM. But of course, I mean, that's not the only thing we'll look at. Also, you have to remember, if your academic journey was interrupted by some event that was largely out of your control and that had some impact on your grades, then that is something that you can explain to us in the statement, or as part of the statement that you have to write for the application. also, we do look at the results as you progress through your degree. So if there was one semester where you perhaps had a difficult time, then that's something that you can explain to us, and we will take that into consideration. So if, as I said earlier, if your grades are not competitive enough to get into the program, and then we do have this special track that we consider, and there are up to 20 places. So this 2-year period is calculated up to the enrollment in our program. So it doesn't mean you must have finished the 2 years of this legal related work. As long as the 2-year period is complete by the time you would enter, then that is sufficient. Yes, this was the issue where we were talking about, will you consider my application if it's my second or third choice? We will not start processing your application until your application has actually been rejected by your first choice. We will then process, so we will first process all the first choice applications and then only review the second or third applications or choice applications if there are still remaining places. So first, your first choice institution would have to reject you for us to even take a look at your application. And that's the same for all the institutions. So if you were to put down, let's say, another institution as your first choice and us as the second choice, they would do the same thing. When it comes to reference letters, yeah, they're not compulsory, but we sometimes find them quite useful. Another perspective from another individual, I think it never hurts to have some letters, but if you having a difficult time finding somebody to write a letter, or cannot find anybody, don't worry about that too much. If there isn't a letter, it doesn't mean it's in some way prejudicial to you. Must I answer all the questions? Simple answer is yes. On the application form, please do answer. Is there any advantage, and this was something I mentioned earlier, is there any advantage to submitting an application early? I would say yes, because one, your application gets looked at first, and if, there are always a number of offers that we give out to the strong candidates whose applications we see first. And also, as the deadline approaches, we start seeing more and more people sort of panicking in terms of sending in information at the last minute and then trying to make sure that all the documents are in. And I think that's just unnecessary stress for yourself, especially if you're studying for your exams in the winter semester. So my advice would be to try to get this rolling as quickly as you can, and that then leaves you plenty of time to deal with any outstanding issues such as IELTS or conversion exams. All right, so as promised, I've dealt with all the sort of initial issues. If you have any questions, then this is really the time for you to ask, and I welcome any questions either through just voice, or if you want to turn your camera on, perfectly fine, or even the chat function. I can take a look at those, any questions that you may have. So feel free to ask. Okay, good. So there's a question here. After submitting the online, are there any follow-up requirements or additional documents need to provide? So as long as you've provided all the documents that are stated in the application, then it should be sufficient. And my admin colleagues will check the documents, and if there are any additional documents that they require, then they will get in touch with you. One thing I would say is, if you've made the effort to apply, and if you've put in the sort of time and money to make that application, then please do keep checking your whichever contact details you've provided, to ensure that any sort of questions or requests they have do get answered. How many UGC places are there? I mean, there's no fixed number of UGC places every year. They sort of, I mean, I work as a legal executive since, and now just finished the LLB. All right, with a pass. Yeah, okay. So this question is about whether you can apply if you've the requirement of the professions is you must have a 2-2 degree. So if it's so I don't quite, yeah, I think as far as I understand. So are you saying that it's not a 2-2 degree? It's a pass degree. So I'm assuming it's lower than a 2-2. So if that is the case, then yeah, that would be a difficulty, I think, because that is actually a requirement of the professions. I'm still working at so it says, can I apply? I'm still working at a law firm. I'm over. Yeah, age is not, okay, I don't have a 2-2. Then yeah, that really would be a limitation because the requirement is that it be a 2-2 or above. English language exemption or requirement exemption. There is no actually exemption for when it comes to English language. So everybody, again, it's one of the requirements set by the standing committee. Everybody has to do the IELTS exam. So even if you went to a English university, or if English is your first language, that is still a requirement of the standing committee. But the thing I would say there is, it's going to maybe take an afternoon of your life. It's a bit of an inconvenience. Yeah, I understand. But I would say get that out of the way first. And if it's your first language, then it should be no issue at all. Can I try special track? Again, as I said, I mean, you don't have to specifically apply for the special track. We would consider you based on that anyway, if we felt that your application deserved to be looked at it in that manner. When will a rejection be notified? Will reasons be given? There are no reasons that are given for rejections. Again, that is quite standard at any university and in any course that you do. I don't think anybody actually gives reasons for rejection. Normally, I think rejections, again, there's no set time, but it would be towards the end of the end of the application period, towards the end of the application, or the admission cycle, I would say, which is usually around August or September. What is the GPA requirement? Honestly, I couldn't tell you because every year it fluctuates, and we don't want to set any sort of expectations when it comes to GPAs because every year people ask the same thing. We again cannot really provide you an answer because it all depends on the cohort. So we have to look at the cohort as a whole in order to determine where the line would lie. Under the special track, what kind of work experience would be included as solid? Okay, so a lot of times people who join the program having worked and being considered under the special track, I'd say the most common types of work are probably like as a paralegal. So working as a paralegal or working in the legal department of a company would count as solid law-related work. If your work experience is different, then I'd invite you to try to explain that in your statement. In-house counsel, work as an in-house counsel count? Dispute, no, it doesn't have to be dispute resolution related, as long as there's some legal aspect to the job. I think that would be something we could take into consideration. Beside the ability to take exams electronically and the international student, we are. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. What are some other unique features? Yeah. So as you rightly pointed out, we do conduct our exams online or on computers, which are strictly speaking offline, or don't give you access to the internet. International student body, that's also true. Other unique features. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, one of the more unique features at the moment, I would say, is our incorporation of specific tools such as co-counsel in training our students for the advances that are occurring in the legal space. So learning how to draft using these tools, learning how to do research, learning how to conduct litigation. Co-counsel, if you have any understanding or familiarity with it, is a very useful tool for practitioners. And as I said, I mean, we're the first law school, not just in Hong Kong, but in the whole of Asia Pacific, to work with Thomson Reuters. And our colleagues have been training and working with people from Thomson Reuters to learn the capabilities of their tool and to then use that in classes. I myself do a lot of work in this area, and I'm trying to use more innovative ways of teaching. So one of the examples I can give you is I teach personal injuries practice. So next semester, when I teach my course, I'll be using a slightly different approach when it comes to conducting the so-called lectures, where I'll be putting some of the material which traditionally would be taught during the lectures in short videos, which students can look at before class. So when they come to a large group class, then we can focus more on problem solving. So what I do is I talk about the cases that I've done. So I use that case to then teach whatever concept that I'm trying to teach the students. So there may be a number of authorities that I want to focus on, a real life case. So to meld all that into 1 hour, 30-minute lecture, instead of me just standing there and talking about things all the time. I gotta have a lot more interaction with the students. We try to solve the problem together. So those are some of the things that we try to do, which are different from some of the other law schools. Will you invite all applications to interview who fulfill? Yeah, if we feel that you are part of or you would fall into the special track, then we would invite you for an interview. It's normally about a 10-15 minute interview. People come in person, but if you have a real difficulty, then we can look at alternative arrangements. But normally it is in-person interview at our campus. I might have missed the point, but could you confirm that? Yes, the UGC places are limited to local students, as it said on the slide. And local would depend on how the university classifies you. So could you provide the question says, could you provide the chance of student for overseas? So even if you went overseas to study, it doesn't necessarily mean you're an overseas student. For university purposes, you could still be, or you might still be local. Again, I would encourage you to check that with the university's school of. I would think it would probably be the School of Graduate Studies. I think you can ask them more about how they would classify students as either local. But my understanding is that if you, let's say, for example, if you have an ID card, they would classify you as a local student. But just to be sure, I think I would suggest you ask the university's School of Graduate Studies also, just for confirmation. There's another question here. It says, I hold 2 undergraduate degrees with second upper class each, plus 15 years. Sorry, I think it's just a screen, a long question. So screen difficulty, plus 15 years experience in law enforcement. Okay, police. Are these qualifications sufficient for direct admission to PhD in law? Sorry to say, but I think I am probably not the best person to ask when it comes to PhD, but I would encourage you, if that is your interest, I would encourage you to get in touch with somebody from the academic side of the law school, and I'm sure they'd be able to answer that question. PhD in law with a concert. Yeah, I think so. I think that would probably be better. I'm interested to know if your MPhil programs are funded for the. Oh, again, I think the MPhil programs would probably be somebody else in the law school. Whoever's in charge of those programs, I think, would be in the best position to answer. I would encourage you to take a look at our website and to get in touch with the person who's in charge of those programs. May I know if the information session will be up? Yes, this information session will be sent to you or the link for this session will be sent to you later on. And I'm sure we normally do put them online, so you should be able to watch this online, I think. But we will send you the link afterwards in an email. If you registered for the talk, then we will definitely be sending you an email. And on that note, I also want to say, if you are somebody who's in the UK, and there are some other questions that you'd like to ask face to face, then I will be in the UK in about a week's time, or maybe 10 days time. As you may know, a number of the law firms and the other law schools in Hong Kong, we will all be attending the law fairs, the yearly law fairs in England, and the sort of the 3 venues are the same as they always are: Cambridge, London, and Oxford. So we will also be sending you information in the email of the law fairs in that email that I mentioned. But in addition to those 3 venues, I will also be going to the University of Manchester and University of Birmingham on 2 separate dates. Again, we'll include that information in the email that we send you. So if you would like to attend one of those 5 sessions, then do please come by. And if you are any additional questions that you'd like to ask, or if you want to know a little bit more about certain aspects of the program, then please do so. Again, I think that's going to be towards the week of the, as far as I remember, I think the 17th, beginning the 17th of November. So it'll be Cambridge, then London, then I'll go to Manchester, then Birmingham, and then Oxford, in that order. These slides after the event, I'm fairly sure, yeah, we can send you this. Yeah, I think we'll definitely put the link for this presentation. I'm not 100% sure about the slides, but I don't see why we can't do that. I think I'll ask my colleagues to deal with that. I have another question is, I have a question regarding the recommendation. Do you directly upload a copy to the application system, or the referee would need to send the letter? I think people this to be honest, because it's more of an administrative matter, I think normally what happens is a lot of these people do send the letters directly to us, the referee, unless I'm mistaken. If that is the case, we'll make a note of that in the email we send you. But as far as I recall, people do write to us. But again, this is an administrative matter, so I'm not 100% sure. What if the referee is a staff at? Because the reason I'm saying is, even in the past when I was teaching on the LLB and JD, I had written a few reference letters for students, and I would normally just send them to the law school directly myself. How much does a reference letter count? I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, you can't put a figure on it, or I would say it depends on the rest of the application. I mean, sometimes a reference letter may be very useful. Other times it may not really say anything, because it also depends on what the application, or sorry, reference letter says. If it's very general and it doesn't add anything to the whole application, then it may not really count for much. But if it's very specific and is quite persuasive, then it could make some difference. But again, I think even an excellent reference letter isn't going to overcome very bad results. Any support from the law school to apply for training contract? Support, I would say, I mean, depends on your definition of the word support. We do have an office in the law school where there is a person whose job it is to actually organize talks and to bring in law firms and individuals from law firms and from chambers to speak to students. And this office also is a professional development office, which also helps students with issues such as resume writing and obtaining references. So in that sense, yeah, I think there are a lot of talks and there are a lot of sessions that are held, and I would encourage, if let's say, for example, if you entered the PCLL and you had still not found an employment yet, then I would attend some of the workshops that are organized by my colleague in the professional development office. Also, we almost, I would say, weekly basis. On a weekly basis, we get correspondence from law firms who want to hire trainees. So we send out this information to our PCL students, and I see these emails every week. So we in that sense, we do help to publicize the vacancies. I'm planning to complete the remaining conversion exams and IELTS in January. Okay, good. Should I apply before receiving? Yeah, you can apply basically even like from now. If we were to offer you admission, then we'd do it on a conditional basis. So as long as you fulfill all the requirements before you enter, then that should be sufficient. So, but yes, the short answer is yes, you can apply now. Also, with my paralegal experience in Hong Kong, over 5 years, be beneficial. Yeah, I mean, in that sense, as I said earlier, if you were to, if your results and the application as a whole was strong enough that we didn't need to consider you for special track, then we'd just give you the offer anyway. But if, for example, your results did not meet the standard for that year, then we would start looking at it from the other perspective, given your work experience. But again, I would encourage you to apply as early as you can, because I think it's more for really the benefit of the applicants to get that aspect out of the way. All right, so we will be sending you that email, as I mentioned. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to look at our website. There is an email address stated there. Okay, so we have a few more questions. Could you further comment on the issue of referees with regards to eligibility? Yeah, so referees, I would say usually would be people who know you well. People who have worked with you either, or people have taught you, depending on your situation. So if you're students, obviously, I think it'd make more sense to have somebody who's a teacher. But if you've been working, have some work experience, then it would be somebody who's a sort of colleague, a senior colleague who can comment on your work. Now, again, as I said earlier, references are not strictly required. So if you don't have one, and for our undergraduate students who are students and been applying as somebody who's just finishing up a degree, we don't always see people sending references anyway, so it's not a requirement. Does the IELTS test have any bearing on the UGC place? Not really, I would say no. It's more like a formality as long as it's over 7. Obviously, if the higher it is, the better indication it is of your language ability. But I'd say for UGC, I wouldn't think so. No. If I'm intending to do conversions for some of the requisite top-up subjects, when will I still be eligible to when I apply for in June? Okay, would I still be eligible for admission when I apply for 2026, 27? All right, so in April, yeah. So if you're, yeah, as I said earlier, technically, if you, let's say, for example, applied for this year and you had not finished your conversion exams, and we gave you a conditional offer, and you were to start in, let's say, September of 2026, as long as you fulfilled the conversion exam requirement before you enrolled, and this would be most likely the June conversion exam, right? So the June 2026 conversion exam. So basically 2-3 months before you enroll, as long as you pass those exams, you'd be fine. Yeah. So if you're taking them in June of 26 for 26, 27, yeah, it should be sufficient as long as you pass. Yeah. All right. So yeah, it looks like those are all the questions. But as I said, there is an email link that we have on our website. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to send them to the link. I will also be in England in about 10 days' time. So again, if you get a chance, do please come to either the law fairs, or if you're close to Birmingham or University of Manchester, please do stop by for those information talks. But thank you once again. It was good to see a number of people taking part in this this presentation today. So thank you very much. Have a great day. And if you have any questions, please do send them to us. Okay, so one final question, I think it's here. And inadequate prior research public affect my chances? Well, again, I think because we're not a research program, publications, obviously they're not going to hurt you, but they wouldn't be very sort of consequential, I would say, when it comes to admissions. It's more really the results of the subjects that you have to take in order to get into the PCL that would be more relevant. All right, so I hope that answers the question. Again, thank you. And if you do attend one of these sessions, then I look forward to seeing you. All right, thanks. We will be holding a number of these information sessions also in the future, in the coming months. So if you have any friends who missed them, then do please let them know and keep an eye out on our website. All right. Have a good day and bye-bye. Thank you.